Hello, everyone. Welcome to the product webinar. My name's Michelle Anton. I'm the brand ambassador for Clar8ty, and it's such an honor to introduce Chris Neville. He has an impressive background. He's involved with ongoing research and product development focused on the latest scientific findings for longevity and regeneration. Also, he has over 25 years of experience in advertising, wellness, and the direct sales industries, and he brings an unparalleled perspective to Clar8ty as the Vice President of Product Development. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Michelle. Welcome to me. Certainly welcome to everybody else. It's great to be here. So thanks for that kind introduction. Today is, or this evening, really depending on what part of the world you're in, super excited to introduce Dr. Michael Foudy, who will be presenting Living the 100-Year Lifestyle. His clinic's based just not far from the office here in Mission Viejo. But more importantly, I really feel that as a health professional, he's going to bring another perspective to the Clar8ty message. And when we're looking at how health professionals interrelate to our message, I really think that there's a tremendous synergy that emerges, because from my understanding, from a chiropractic point of view, what we have is really structure, function, and the energetics of the body, and it just fuses so beautifully with our message. So Dr. Foudy, thanks very much for joining us. Over to you.
My pleasure. Welcome, everybody. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Foudy. I am a chiropractor. I've been in practice for over 27 years, graduated from Los Angeles College of Chiropractic in 1989, did all my prerequisite and undergraduate work at Saddleback Community College. I've also treated, some of my accolades have been on the U.S. Women National Team and treated them through the years from 96 on until the year 2004, was at the Sydney Games, where I treated a lot of other Olympiads. Also have some certification in ergonomic back care programs, did a lot of talks on posture and how sitting is so toxic for your back, and how more and more nowadays people are sitting too much, and it's really causing a lot of havoc in neck, back, and lower back problems. I also have done a lot of research in certification in paraspinal electromyograph, which is measuring the nerve wave activity of nerves. So a lot of different stuff, whiplash, spinal trauma, done a lot of stuff on research with that also. But I'm glad to be here, and would love to talk to you about your amazing body and how in detailed and integrated it is. When you realize when we're born in the mother's womb, we have to realize the first 8 weeks of gestation is, we call this homeostasis or mitosis, is where the sperm and egg get together and multiply, and exponentially within 8 weeks a mulberry mass is formed in the mother's womb, which becomes your brain, and from the brain grows the spinal cord, and from there grows roots out your spinal nerve roots, and then there comes the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, all generated, or the birth comes from the brain and spinal cord. That's how we're designed. And it's amazing how nowadays we're finding out that more centenarians are living more. That's the fastest growth of population now. Right now, there's over 85,000 centenarians in the U.S. right now. And they're predicting by the year 2050, over 4 million people will be living over 100 years. That is a lot of people. Chronic illness versus lifestyle illness. And I know, Chris, you can relate to this, of how many people are getting sick nowadays. And we're really finding out the root cause is that we're treating the symptom and not the cause. And we're blocking those prostaglandin receptor sites to reduce inflammation, but it really doesn't get rid of inflammation, because inflammation is the degeneration. That's what's causing aging. It's not how, you know, Jack LaLanne always used to say, you know, we don't die of old age, we die of inactivity. And if we can't keep moving, our body does get in an inflammation state. And they're now realize that 80% of the adult population now has chronic illness or inflammation, and it's really due to our lifestyle. You know, we're too sedentary. Our posture and structure is not in line with our overall health. I hope that makes sense. Chris?
Dr. Foudy, just before we go on there, because I really think that you hit a couple of really important things that I think our listeners would appreciate, and that is that in my simple view, life moves, and most people have adopted this sedentary lifestyle, and so they're not looking at the fundamental causes of why dis-ease or dysfunction emerges. And I think that that's a really important element, is that it's a lifestyle condition that is actually at the source of, or lifestyle manner is really at the source.
Absolutely. Of it. Yeah, we're always blaming our genes that, you know, hey, genetically, you know, we look at our parents and our grandparents, you know, they died of heart disease, but we don't realize that they're now finding out that it's not so much genetic. They're now realizing that 70% is lifestyle changes and only 30% is genetic based. So absolutely, Chris, it is lifestyle, and it's the choices that we're making right now that are really going to predict our future. Either we can get there with quantity or we can get there with quality. And it's just this excited about Calibrate and the whole Clar8ty team and what they've been, what you guys come up with. I love the product, and we can go on with that in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key elements of the chronic illness is really has a lifestyle basis to many of the conditions. It's empowering because it tells us very clearly that how it is has a source, and if we can identify the source, we no longer have to play in the signs and symptoms aspect of life. And so we've got the ability to do something about it should we choose.
Absolutely. Top leading causes of death. And this is what I think a lot of people don't realize is they do know that a lot of people die of heart disease. You know, how many times you hear Joe that works out every day, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and all of a sudden drops dead of a heart attack. You know, sometimes there's no warnings or signs. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States. Over 250,000 die of cancer every year, 400 in heart disease. Third leading cause of death is prescription drugs. This is one that a lot of people don't realize, is that not so much the side effects, it's just that the body doesn't treat the cause. And a lot of these people are dying through the reactions of prescription drugs. Not overprescribed or underprescribed, just the side effects of prescription drugs. And then we got the chronic respiratory disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, influenza, pneumonia, kidney disease. And reading on the bottom of that, all of these are preventable by lifestyle. How we eat, how we move, and how we think. The top three real strong components of getting quality instead of quantity there.
Just to add that, I love that the simple little three-step there, Dr. Foudy, and that is what we eat, how we move, and how we think. I've always said that sometimes it's not what we eat, but what's eating you, and so the relationship between each of those key points, I think, is so critical. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, the next slide is your nervous system. You got to realize, like I was explaining before, that when, for example, when Christopher Reeves, I think most of you know, played Superman on TV, when he fell off his horse and he broke his neck, he actually severed his top, right at the bottom base of his skull. You have we call the midbrain, or the tail of the brain, and it severed that part of his spinal cord, and he basically was a quadriplegic. He basically was living on a respirator. So it's so important that the nervous system has proper electrical flow through the spinal cord throughout your whole nervous system. You have a lot of nerves, and if you were to actually take them out and lay them side by side, they'd go a half-mile wide. I mean, if you go end over end, they'd go around the world. There's just a lot of nerves in your body. And what happens a lot of times is sometimes it doesn't happen right away, but through chronic micro repetitive trauma is the most leading cause of what we call a subluxation, where it's just a minor misalignment of the bones of the spine that causes nerve interference. Now, people need to realize this is, again, one of those silent killers: heart disease, cancer, and degenerative disc disease. Is that the body sometimes doesn't react to that pain until later on. It could be years of the spine rotting on the inside before you get symptoms on the outside. And this is what's so important with chiropractic, is a lot of times we can find those subluxations before they become a very serious degenerative problem. And we're seeing this now with a lot of these kids that are growing up playing contact sports. Now they're in their 30s and 40s, and now they're coming in with spines that are twice their age from facts that they didn't get properly in line or were checked by a chiropractor to assess any postural subluxation. So here's a side view of what a pinched nerve looks like. Pretty clear to the illustration is that what you would see on it when we take an X-ray, we can really see that the disc itself, the one above, the healthy disc, and if you look down, the third disc down, you can see there's what we call a herniated disc. And people think of a herniated disc as, the layman terminology is like a slipped disc. I always like to use the analogy of like an ice cream sandwich, where the outer borders and then the ice cream inside is the disc, and how a lot of times if you squish that sandwich down, it bulges out. And that a lot of times is what can cause pain. Sometimes it can't. A lot of people are walking with herniated disc and don't even know it. But my point is, disc herniation leads to degenerative disc disease, which is all part of that inflammation process that a lot of times I can get it taken care of structurally, but we also need proper nutrition. And that's where Calibrate is powerful in getting rid of the inflammation process. Chronic degenerative illness and disease levels are surging. As you can see here, 60% of deaths worldwide are a result of chronic degenerative diseases. And that just doesn't stem with just bone or musculoskeletal. That's dealing with all your organs and systems of your body. I mean, Chris, I'm sure you can calibrate on that also.
Oh, look, I think one of the amazing things that is so obvious is that we're in a time where we have so much information, but so little apparent common sense, and that is that chronic degenerative diseases being a lifestyle condition, most people have been brought up on the idea of signs and symptoms, and this comes all the way back to the earlier comment, and that is that when you see that there is this rampant expansion of the chronic ailments that are afflicting people globally, there's something that's a commonality within that, and that commonality really comes back down to the idea of structure, function, and lifestyle. And those things that we're doing on a daily basis are either moving us towards a condition or away from a condition. So we don't wake up one morning and say, oh, I've got. It's like, no, I've been creating. And it really comes to a simple situation that most people don't realize that, health is not something that is an automatic situation. It's something that we can consciously participate in. And I really think that it's an empowering situation, but it's also can be very lazy. And most people I've found tend to be a little bit automated in what they do. And we're creatures of habits, admittedly. But once we hit that wall where we're getting that nudge of health, we can either participate and prevent, or we're going to suffer the consequence, because life won't be lied to. It's not going to be persuaded by an advertising commercial or otherwise. It's like you either have the experience of health and vitality, or you're going to be suffering the effect of some lifestyle practice.
Yeah, right on. The great thing is people are either reactive or they're proactive, and a lot of times in America we're really reactive. Once we're in pain, we're reaching for that magic pill, and not realizing a lot of this stuff has been building up for months, if not years, before people think, oh, I bent down to pick up a bar of soap when I was in the shower and I threw my back out. Well, and then you take X-rays and you realize it's stuff that they've been doing for years. And this is just one of a good supplementation is to be more proactive and get your nervous system and get your body in harmony. And this Calibrate is a product that I believe in 100%, and I look forward to many more lectures and reaching out to the people out there that need to be educated on this.
Absolutely. This next slide to me just ties in beautifully with a Time magazine front page, and it really is the secret killer, this silent killer that is affecting the world in real terms. And it comes down to there's a common link between various ailments, and rather than looking at dis-ease, we're looking at a functional aspect of the body and how it deals with things. And this condition is really referred to as inflammation. And there's a common link if you to look at the inflammation as the root cause or the root source of all of these ailments. When you think of, as Dr. Foudy was mentioning there, about the central nervous system of the body, neurological conditions with Alzheimer's and dementia has now been identified as having an inflammation foundation. Autoimmune conditions, cardiovascular, as we mentioned, and rightly so. The Surgeon General of the US said that we shouldn't be thinking of heart disease as heart disease anymore. We should be thinking of it as being inflammation. And the inflammation of the skeletal system, again, is we may be referring to that as being osteoporosis or otherwise. So these are all of the conditions, but in real terms, there is a functional aspect of it that can be identified as being common, and that is inflammation. So
yeah,
it really ties a lot of those things together. So when we look at the source of a problem, Dr. Foudy, you'll know when you've got a client with you or a patient with you. They're coming in and they're experiencing pain or discomfort or otherwise. So that's more of a structural alignment. True?
True. Sometimes. Oh, it's a combination of everything: diet, posture, inactivity. Yeah, it's a thought process. That whole thing we talked about before. I call it the triangle of health, and that is how we move, how we eat, and how we think. But yeah, most of the times what I do is I look at them structurally at first. Yes, structure, and then we look at movement, and then we do a scan of their back, and then we take the X-rays. But yes, that's the majority of the patients are coming in because of that.
Absolutely. So there's the structure, as in the alignment, and then how the alignment or misalignment will affect the function. So going back to as an image at least, the subluxation and the herniated disc, is that connectivity with the nervous system will actually affect the function of an organ. Can you maybe share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, and you see this a lot. A perfect example, somebody comes in with stomach pain. And a lot of times they went to their general doctor. They did the scope. They didn't find any ulcers or any. A lot of times they like to classify it as GERD, gastro upper respiratory disorder, or anything where the stomach isn't properly digesting the food, and you'll find out that none of that was detected. And what you'll find a lot of times at the thoracic vertebrae number 6, 5 and 7, but mainly 6 vertebrae in the middle of your back. You have 12 mid backbones called your thoracics, and that 6 vertebrae is usually subluxated, putting pressure on that area that could cause stomach problems. again, even constipation, diarrhea, lower down in the lower thoracic and upper lumbar, you've got those nerves go to those organs. And if there's chronic pressure on that, sometimes could lead to organ dysfunction. Absolutely, Chris. Absolutely.
Beautiful. And so the structure, the function, and then we can go into the cellular function. And this is really where we can look at how lifestyle and diet and environment play, a huge impact on that. And so really, when we look at inflammation, it's really the oxidative stress and toxicity that's actually exists within a cell. And if we look at a cell, it's either, on a very basic level, it has either too little or too much. And that healthy cell model is either too little in terms of nutrients or too much in terms of toxicity. And so that balance is really what we're looking at. And when that balance is disturbed from lifestyle, not eating, proper nutrition, lack of movement, lack of movement, obviously, can you maybe share a little bit about why movement's so important, Dr. Foudy, particularly with the lymphatics as well?
Absolutely. I look at it as like a rusty hinge. If you don't move that hinge over time, it starts to oxidize. And it's just the same thing as like putting WD-40 or oil in between those joints. You're actually creating a movement or a protection in there. But if you don't keep the spine moving, it does go through a degenerative disease process. And that's right, the lymphatic system doesn't move as much. That's why they say when you exercise, you're not only getting blood flow, but you're getting lymph flow, you're getting the whole movement at the cellular level to get things less oxidized and getting it moving. Hopefully that answered that question.
Absolutely. And so really the ability for the body to be able to move and become mobilized and having the lymph and the toxic waste eliminated from the body, because it's not sometimes just about the toxin, it's if the toxin remains in the body, and that's really where it can cause a lot of the challenge. And this is where the combination of the movement as well as the diet is so critical, of course, as well. So this is a perfect segue when we talk about medicine targeting signs and symptoms. And you mentioned it before, Dr. Foudy, when we talked about the top 10 diseases or conditions that people are dying from, whether it be from the heart, first sign of a heart attack usually is a heart attack, right? So
50%
not exactly
or more.
And then what we have is cancer. And then if we look at the oxidative stress and the toxicity is definitely a foundation, and it's a lifestyle. And we know it today. It's better than 50% of cancers are actually lifestyle related. So if we know that, then this is where we have the ability to be more proactive. But one of the key things was the third aspect of, or third reason why people were dying, and it's known as iatrogenesis, or death by pharmaceutical mishap, following directions on the side of the bottle. Isn't that outrageous?
Yeah.
There's over 106,000, and get a measure of this, if you will, and that is, if you had,
all the homicides, suicides.
Delta Airlines fell out of the sky, and a plane, and you had a crash, and you go, wow, there's 300 people gone today, and you had that happen every day.
Correct.
And then you take it outside the US and take it globally. That's 1 million per year that are falling out of the sky from following directions on the side of a bottle. So do we have a problem?
And that's only what's reported. I mean, that's what's reported. There's a lot of other ones that have been unreported. Yes.
Indeed, and I think that this is one of the truly important things that we need to pay attention to, and seek medical attention. We definitely want to work with our healthcare professional, but what we need to be mindful of is something that's equally important, and that is mindfulness within the process. And this is why I really think that when we understand a little bit more about our body, and it's not about trying to be overeducated in one area or undereducated. It's just we're with ourselves 24/7. So if we can see some of the simple things that we control from a lifestyle perspective, I think that subtle choice that we make on a daily basis is not to eat or not to eat. It's a matter of what to eat and having a better quality of nutritional intake, or less of cutting back on some of the things that maybe detract from life, and maybe to use the things that we call feet and legs and get up and to move. And that's one of the things as well. Before we go into the next slide, I wanted to touch on the signs and symptoms and relate the structure aspect of the body to, I've heard it referred to as text neck. Can you maybe share a little bit about this modern malady, please, Dr. Foudy?
The forward head carriage of the neck, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you realize, first of all, heavy our head is. People don't realize if you were to hold a bowling ball, 16 pounds is the average weight of an adult head. And if we realize that if the middle of your head or the ear should line up with the shoulder, but 99% of population has a forward head carriage. We sit all day and we leaning forward, looking in front of our computer. When we read, when we eat, when we sit in our car, it creates that shift. If you were to hold that bowling ball out from center line, if you were holding it, if you imagine holding it, your arms are going to start getting real tired and fatigued. And that's what's happening to those neck muscles and those upper muscles called your trapezius muscles that hold your neck up. And those muscles get fatigued, and then they get tight, and then your shoulder starts to round forward, and then it compresses into your lung. Your lungs start to, so now you're restricting your breathing, compressing not even more into your heart and into your stomach. It's amazing how it's a cascade effect. And then it goes down into your upper mid back and down to your lower back, and then your body has to arch to keep your head upright. So now you're getting what's called sway back. As the head goes forward, you've got to counterbalance down below. So it's just amazing how one thing leads to the next. Absolutely, I don't want to call it an epidemic, but it is a problem that people can really get a handle on, and just through posture awareness and looking at people's situation when they come in, we can really help out with that.
Fantastic, and I think that's one of the key things that I wanted to highlight is that there is identifying the source of a problem. That when somebody comes in and they may have a digestive issue, as you mentioned, with the thoracic 6 as an example, but you've also got a situation where people think that they've got a pain in the knee, but it actually could be the misalignment of something else further in the body as well. So it's where we're thinking that the pain medication and the pain in the knee and the location of that experience is the problem, when in actual fact it's further related, as that cascade could be tracked back to its original source.
Absolutely. Yep.
So one of the things that we looked at in the product development and understanding that when you actually have inflammation and oxidative stress as the experience in the body and how it shows up within the experience of wellness. On a cellular level, what we've been accustomed to is the idea of antioxidants as being something that we need to consume for the purpose of neutralizing this inflammation or this oxidative stress condition inside the cell. And that's absolutely the truth, but it's only half of the truth. And we refer to the idea of dietary antioxidants as secondary antioxidants. So if we're experiencing this condition of pain at some level, we've also got oxidative stress that's occurring in the cell. And then if we go into rather than the skeletal system, we go into the different organs and functions of the body. We look at all the way from the organ or the system of the body all the way back to the cell. And that if the cell has this function of staying in balance where it has enough or of the nutrients that it needs to stay healthy and reduces the amount of toxicity and oxidative stress inside the cell, that balance can exist. And when we refer to as putting out the fires, what we've identified is the source of the challenge. And that is that if you're to look at a cell as a building that's on fire and to try to address that problem, most people are looking for the solution because of what they've been told, and that is that antioxidants are a great support to the body. And as I mentioned earlier, they are. There is a difference. There are two types of antioxidants in simple terms, and that is secondary antioxidants, which most people are more familiar with, and these are derived from our diets. And we've heard, with regard to the vitamins and minerals and proteins and carotenoids, etc., and vitamin C and coenzyme Q10. These secondary antioxidants actually play a buffering role. But there is another type of antioxidants, and this other type of antioxidants is regarded as endogenous or made by the body. We refer to that as being primary antioxidants, and they really complete the antioxidant or the defense system of the body. And the three primary antioxidants are SOD, being superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. These three primary antioxidants actually work together to help neutralize oxidative stress and inflammation at the source of the problem, which is inside the cell. And this is really important because what it shows is that the most powerful antioxidants actually are made by the body. And so if we're looking at supporting the body and the natural mechanism of the body, then supporting, upregulating, or enhancing or improving the body's ability to make more of its own antioxidants should be one of our key areas of focus from a preventative point of view. And that's exactly what actually happens, and that our genes are naturally coded to produce those antioxidants. They just simply need to be switched on. And sometimes through the course of our life, due to what we eat, the lack of movement, and even how we think, can affect this gene expression, this ability for the body to be able to make its own antioxidants and its own detoxification enzymes. And that's the fundamental source of the problem, is inside the cell, which leads to the obviously the organ and the system challenges that sometimes we experience. And so this is really identifying that source and being able to work there at that level, or what we refer to as gene level nutrition. So in developing Clar8ty, or gene level nutrition, what we identified was exactly what Dr. Foudy was mentioning earlier, and that is that nutrition plays an important area of focus that we need to pay attention to as far as health is concerned. We know that, and we also know that the structure and function of the body is related to the ability for nutrients to be able to be transported to the body, to the cell, and also for toxic waste to be able to be eliminated as well. And so looking at the interrelationship of the structure and the function, and also the cellular function specifically, is being able to get those nutrients in. So we assembled and formulated a group of nutrients, several of them that are actually patented, that have a known ability to be able to influence gene expression. Some of those we'll get to in a moment, but the formulation had to be pure. It had to be based on, we didn't want to add a burden of toxin to the body, and so we made a very clear decision that it was vegan, non-GMO, and gluten-free. And so there are no preservatives or additives, no soys or artificial sweeteners. With the formulation, we included a couple of other ingredients, including chaga mushroom, curcumin, and piperine, and many, many more. The basis, again, comes back down to how can we support the structure and the function of the body to get well, stay well at a cellular level, using nutrition as one of our disciplines or protocols. This is really one of the things that triggered off my interest in the area of nutrigenomics was learning of sulforaphane. Sulforaphane is actually derived from cruciferous vegetables predominantly, but the highest incidence of a compound called glucoraphanin exists within broccoli sprouts. And what we're talking about is when this particular nutrient is delivered to the body, the reason why it's actually getting so much attention at Johns Hopkins University, the University of East Anglia, the University of Queensland here in Australia, and many other universities like the University of Tokyo in Japan, worldwide, is because it acts as a nutrigenomic catalyst. And I love the word that Dr. Foudy used earlier, and that's a cascade. Is when you look at something in the body and see it as being an ache or a pain or otherwise, it's usually the trigger is further upstream. And this is where what they're identifying is what can trigger a cascade of good or not so good in the body. And these pathways are known as the NRF2, QR being quinone reductase, and many other markers that actually occur within the body that can either show us that we have inflammation and the body not or becoming overwhelmed by the inflammation, and also whether or not there is the ability for the body to produce its own protective mechanism at a cellular level. And this is where sulforaphane has been researched because of its ability to impact over 2,000 genes that are responsible for cellular health and balance. And it's multifunctional. So this is a really important thing. Many nutrients have got a very important functional aspect with regard to getting well, staying well, but sulforaphane is regarded as the most multifunctional single natural compound known to nutritional science. And so when we're looking at being able to get well and stay well, it's definitely one of your allies you want to have in your basket. So some of the reasons why it's become so widely researched is its ability. We know about the toxic stress because of, as Dr. Foudy mentioned, this sedentary lifestyle and the toxins that are building up. And when we look at some of the heavy metals that are in the air that we breathe as well, sulforaphane upregulates the ability for metallothionein to bind to heavy metals. It also upregulates detox enzymes. You have the anti-inflammatory NF-kappa B as well. And you look at also the glutathione synthesis. Its ability at even the cellular level for the progression of cancer cells and moving towards even metastasis is that it interrupts cancer progression at different stages. And it's a truly exciting breakthrough in nutritional science, but more importantly is that it's multifunctional. It activates, as I mentioned, 2,000 genes that are responsible for cellular defense. We're talking about the body's ability to make its own superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase, and also activate many of the detoxification enzymes as well. And so being able to have this coordinated production, sulforaphane acts more like the fireman rather than the bucket of water or the fire hose. And what I mean by that is it's more of an indirect antioxidant, because if you just think of a fire or a cell with inflammation and you think of a fire in a 50-story building, most people are thinking from an antioxidant perspective is trying to get that bucket of water to the fire to extinguish the flame. And that's correct in part of their line of thinking. However, the nutrigenomic approach is we're not trying to necessarily deliver the bucket of water to the fire. We're identifying that there's a messenger, this molecule that has an ability to travel very easily to the source of the problem, unlike a big bulky antioxidant molecule that many superfoods and superfruits have. And this fireman goes up the stairwell to the 50th story, and is able to identify the challenges that the fire is having, and simply breaks the little glass, pushes a button, and multiple things happen as soon as that trigger is activated. Those genes send off the alarm, and so now you've got the alarm going on and everything's been brought into the alert phase. You've got the sprinkler system now is been switched on, so the antioxidant production is now neutralizing the oxidative stress inside the body, and you've got the alarm system mobilizing a host of other activity as well, being able to eliminate and remove the waste from the fire as well. And that's just a simple example or image of something that's happening at a very, very fundamental level inside the body. And this is where all of these functions are actually happening simultaneously, and to be able to activate one is something to be excited about. To be able to activate over 2,000 genes is something that is really, we believe, incredibly empowering as far as helping the body achieve balance and homeostasis. Many other ingredients that we included, including enzymes and, of course, probiotics, but some of them you may be familiar with resveratrol. Going back to some of the early research on resveratrol, some people heard that red wine is beneficial, and resveratrol contained within the red wine went back to what they refer to as the French paradoxes. Why have so many French people being able to get away with quite literally having a very, very rich diet and still having quite lean body mass as well? So this is where they identified that resveratrol in the red wine that they consume with the main meal was able to help the body eliminate the potential of oxidative stress with their meals as well. And many other ingredients that we've been able to combine with the formulation are all designed to work synergistically in harmony with targeting one thing specifically, and that is upregulating or enhancing the body's ability to produce primary antioxidants and primary detoxification enzymes. And that's really some of the fundamental there. So as we always refer to as prevention is a whole lot better than the cure, is working at a fundamental level of being able to daily do something. And the Calibrate itself is designed as a simple scoop, add the water, great tasting drink mix. Kids love it, and adults definitely as well. It's a whole lot easier typically than pills and capsules, but more importantly, what we have is the ability to have this nutritional density that is targeting the gene expression, or what we refer to as nutrition at the gene level. So, Dr. Foudy, you've got the 6 facets of a healthy lifestyle. So maybe if you can recap what you see as being some of the things that people can pay more attention to, perhaps.
What people should be paying more attention to, the 6 facets of a healthy lifestyle choices, is really 6 really important things. Is that we need to exercise every day. We need to sweat for at least a half hour. Walking is a great non-force impact activity. Walking, swimming, and riding your bike are 3 great cardiovascular exercise activities that should be done daily. Also, good posture. We need to pay more attention to how we sit in front of a computer. The rule is that the middle of the head, or the ear, should line up with the shoulder, and the shoulder should line up with your side of your hip. So that forward head carriage needs to be more upright. A good thing to do is when you're driving in the car is to slightly raise your rearview mirror to force you to look more upright. And also a good habit is to have the back of your headrest pushed up a little bit, so when you push your head back, your back of your head is pushed against the headrest. Also, to bring your arms at the bottom of the steering wheel. That takes a lot of stress off the shoulders. The old DMV way of driving with your hands up on top at 10 and 2 is now not recommended anymore because the airbag is being deployed. So being at the bottom of the steering wheel, more at the bottom of the clock at 4 and 8 is helpful. Also, good nutrition that Chris went over. Sleeping correctly is another thing that we should pay attention to. Is when we sleep, we don't want to sleep on our stomach. We want to sleep on our sides and on our back, where the pillow is tucked under the neck, not the head. Also, positive mental attitude. Can't stress that enough. Every time you get up in the morning, you want to wake up with a positive affirmation. Today's a great day. I have the opportunity to show up as the best of me ever. And also having a balanced spine and nervous system. That's where chiropractic and nutrition and proper exercise, all of that comes into hand. I really want to thank you for having me, Chris. And I look forward to future webinar presentations.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the call, Dr. Foudy. And as always, the information that's provided within our webinar is for informational purposes only. It's not designed to diagnose or treat any ailment or condition. And as always, if you have a condition, seek professional healthcare support and advice. Thanks very much. Bernard, over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Good stuff. And a big thanks to Dr. Michael Foudy for taking time out of his busy schedule to share some amazing information with us. I'm sure we're all walking away with some good nuggets of information that can help us in our journey to stay healthy. So if you have any questions on products by Clar8ty, please visit our website at www.clar8ty.com. And if you'd like to learn more about Dr. Michael Foudy's Chiropractic Wellness Center in Southern California, you can visit www.drmichaelfoudy.com as it shows here on the screen. So once again, guys, thanks to each of you for tuning into this presentation tonight. Whether you're tuning in by telephone or by computer, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this very informative presentation. Have a great rest of your day. Stay healthy, everybody.